Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you Immigration Law on Your Side.
All right, good evening mga kababayan and welcome to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. Mainit sa Las Vegas pero walang iinit pa sa pag-uusapan natin yon, especially here in Vegas. Napakaraming mga healthcare workers. Makinig kayo kasi the number of people getting old is rapidly increasing. As if you don't know. Siguro kasama tayo doon sa bilang ngayon. And unfortunately, many of them have chronic health conditions ranging from heart problems to dementia. Yet the supply of caregivers is not keeping pace with the increasing demand for their services. Over 25% of caregivers, mga kababayan, are foreign-born. Maraming dyan mga Pilipino, di ba, sa mga healthcare setting natin dito sa Las Vegas especially. Not just sa Las Vegas, but sa buong United States. Yet our broken immigration system does not provide for a temporary working visa category for them. Is there good news para sa mga foreign caregivers para pumunta dito sa USA? Alamin natin ngayon, kasama natin dito live in studio, Attorney Flomy Diza from Reeves Immigration Law Group, live nandito po sa Las Vegas, Nevada sa PHLV Radio Studio. Welcome back sa studio, Attorney.
Maraming salamat, Kuya Johan. It's really great to be back here in the studio in Las Vegas. Mainit man at pupuntahan pa rin natin ang studio to give public service sa ating mga kababayan. Dito lang po sa Immigration Law on Your Side. Maraming salamat for having me here.
Nako, talagang excited po kami, Attorney, na nandito po kayo. At marami po mga kababayan natin nagpadala ng mga questions nila. Pwede pa rin kayong humabol dito sa ating program ngayon. So ipadala lamang. Mamaya sasagutin natin ang mga questions na yan. Pero ngayon, Attorney, ang unang tanong lang ng ating mga kababayan, is there good news para sa ating mga caregivers o sa mga petitioners na gustong magdala ng mga caregivers dito sa United States?
There's always a good news para sa ating mga caregivers, Kuya Johan. Although looking at the history ng mga caregivers natin, right, like for example in 2017, may processing time nito umabot ng mga 7 to 8 years. And of course, marami mga employers ang nadidissuade na magpetition. Right? But looking at the history ng visa bulletin ng EB3, other workers, where the caregiver position falls, sa EB3, other workers, nagiging current siya for the past years,
wow,
Kuya Johan. And many care home owners took advantage of this process. Kaya marami tayong final. Kaya lang ngayon, with the current visa bulletin, looking at the August, kasi lumabas na yung August 2023 visa bulletin, mayroong backlog na 3 years. But 3 years still a very good year to wait, Kuya Johan, considering that, if you want to petition a family member, for example, ang sibling takes about 20 years.
Yeah.
Oo, yung married children naman takes about 18 years, or yung mga unmarried takes about 10 years. So itong process na to medyo complicated and very complex. That's why you need us, to guide you to the process. It's doable and it's possible to bring someone else from the Philippines to work as a caregiver in the United States. So kayo kamag-anak ninyo yan, related po sa inyo o hindi, that's possible and doable.
Attorney, let's jump ahead right away sa mga questions ng ating mga kababayan. Nagpadala sa atin, mga ibang format natin yun, konti, Attorney, in as much as nandito kayo sa station. Sana nga, pumunta sila dito mismo, pero pwede nyo rin padala mga kababayan ang inyong mga questions. Isa sa mga tanong nila dito, Attorney, Attorney Diza, I petitioned for my elderly parents when I became a US citizen, sabi niya. The first year of my parents' arrival were pleasant and we traveled and visited many beautiful places. Kasama siguro dyan ng Disneyland. And our family and friends around the United States. However, after a year, my father suffered stroke. I have a full-time job, nurse siya, Attorney, and our children are still very young. My father need full-time care. So ang tanong niya, Attorney, can I bring my siblings or someone from the Philippines to take care of my father?
Yeah, that's really a good question, and we really have many clients consulting whether they can bring their siblings in the US instead of waiting yung kanilang petition from their parent, especially if they're married. As we all know, that takes about 18 years, and a petition from, as we mentioned kanina, from a sibling takes about 20 years. And what I tell clients is, yes, there's a possibility that you can bring your sibling through an employment base. Right, but we have to take note, mga kababayan, that it's not as simple and easy as bringing them over. Right, then you have to take a lot of consideration, lalo na ang individual, Kuya Johan. Unang-una dyan is yung ability to pay. right? Ability to pay is really very important. That you have to prove that from the time you file the labor certification up to the time na mag-immigrate ang inyong kapatid o yung people that you're petitioning from the Philippines. Ang ibig sabihin ng ability to pay, kaya nyo ipakita that babayaran nyo sila ng tama, no? Tama in a sense that yung sa prevailing wage that you requested from the Department of Labor, right? Or hindi lang yan, Kuya Johan. I mean, kung ang minimum wage, for example, mas mataas sa prevailing wage, you are supposed to offer, yung minimum wage din. So for example, ang California alone, Kuya Johan, is $15.50 per hour. Ang San Francisco nasa 18.30 na yata or 18.10 an hour. So you translate that into annual, lumalabas 32,000 a year. So for example, if you live in San Francisco, yun ang prevailing wage. So 32,000 a year, you're able to show that you have the ability to pay. So for example, if you're a registered nurse, kagaya ng ating yung ating caller o yung nagtatanong sa atin, no, kung kumikita naman sila ng around $250,000, 200 to probably 300,000 combined income nila, right? They're able to file a petition, or for example yung asawa niya may business, right? Pwedeng i-petition. That's number one, yung ability to pay. Pangalawa, Kuya Johan, would be yung tinatawag natin na was there a good faith recruitment? Kasi ang pag-uusapan natin mamaya, paano ba ito gagawin? Kasi you have to do the labor certification under PERM, no? Meaning that you have to do the bona fide and good faith recruitment, advertisement muna and then recruitment. Meaning like, wala dapat ma-displace na US worker. Diba? So you have to advertise in a newspaper of general circulation, and then also you have to do the recruitment. Kung ano yung policy ng company or individual within the area, 'di ba? Pag nagpa-advertise po kayo at may nagpadala ng resume o nag-apply online, you have to call them, right, schedule them an interview appointment whether they are qualified or not. Only then after you determine na hindi sila qualified, right, then pwede mo siyang i-reject. Susulatan mo sila that unfortunately we can't hire you because of this and that. So may mga reasons for disqualification. Hindi pwede na makatanggap po kayo ng resume, Kuya Johan, diretso sa trust ka dahil itong aking position na to, reserva na to sa kapatid ko. Yeah, so what we always tell clients is you have to respond kasi hindi natin alam na yung nagpapadala ng resume taga Department of Labor pala, diba? Kasi aside from the newspaper, magsasubmit din kayo sa Cal Jobs or sa California Jobs or sa Nevada or sa inyong website. So make sure that you do the honest good faith recruitment or bona fide recruitment. Just because of course ang relationship kasi may familiar relationship. So we expect that a Department of Labor might audit kung ano yung recruitment na ginawa. So make sure that you have complied with the Department of Labor laws in dealing and conducting the ads and the recruitment. So yun yung pangalawa. So your ability to pay and the bona fide or good faith recruitment. Those are really important. Pangatlo, Kuya Johan, let's say ang purpose of the job offer, kasi i-describe mo yun di ba, to take care of an ailing father, right, who has a chronic disease or who had a stroke or who had a bypass operation. So pag dinescribe mo yon at siyempre nandun yung sa prevailing wage saka yung job description mo when you file for a labor, sa labor certification, and by the time na may interview siya sa consulate or sa embassy, kung wala na yung father, knock on wood, di ba, may nangyari, namatay, so wala na yung purpose ng inyong job. So that's another problem. So individual person, right, like yourselves, even if you have the ability to pay, you have also to consider yung tinatawag natin good faith and bona fide recruitment, and also the need for the job by the time na mag-immigrate ang inyong kapatid o yung inyong pinapetition. So it's doable and it's possible, but you have to handle it and discuss with an experienced immigration lawyer how to handle petitioning your family members through employment or caregivers position.
Marami kasing nagtatanong dahil parang ang feeling nila pagka sinabing okay, family member ang ipipetition natin, baka mamaya automatic i-deny dahil self-serving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meron namang ibang nag-a-apply dito siguro sa Las Vegas na dyan, sa next merong mga available, di ba? May mga agencies dito.
Correct.
And these caregivers, attorney, these are not nurses. These are just for companionship and for regular makakasama ng iyong ailing father. Parang ganun, ano? No medical requirements, ano?
No medical requirements when it comes to like taking care, like registering medicines, etc. Hindi po yan. So, caregivers meaning siguro tutulong lang siya sa pagpapakain, right? Pagbibihis, pagpapaligo, or siguro accompany them sa medical doctors, maglilinis ng bed, etc.
I-drive sila papuntang
bibili
doktor.
Papunta ng doktor, bibili ng gamot, etc. So yun ang gagawin nila. So you don't really have to have a sterling requirements to be a caregiver as long as you know how to speak English and also take care of people who have medical conditions.
Will it be an advantage or disadvantage if your sibling is a nurse in the Philippines?
Yeah, I mean, marami sa atin kung wala talagang petitioner na hospital, and even if your sibling, yung kapatid po ninyo is registered nurse sa atin, malaking bagay yon, right? But it's not a requirement. We're not going to say that the requirement should be a registered nurse or a graduate of nursing, because one of the conditions pa, Kuya Johan, when you file a PERM, labor certification, you have to specify yung minimum requirements.
Okay.
Kasi very obvious yan na parang a caregiver, ano ba ang qualifications, right? So if you put more additional skills or special requirements na hindi naman kailangan sa trabaho, then Department of Labor will question you. Well, ano bang requirements ng caregiver sa isang may sakit na tao, di ba? Unless you really need a nurse, which I don't think pupwede yan as an individual, right? Otherwise, ano mo siguro sa agency or sa hospital, di ba? Silang magpe-petition but not as an individual person.
Yeah, napag-usapan na rin natin, attorney, ang mga qualifications ng itong mga caregivers. As far as the USCIS, attorney, ano ang minimum requirements para mag-qualify ka as a caregiver? May educational requirements ba ito or anything?
Yes, may educational requirements ang caregivers, mga kababayan, and it's really the minimum requirements is high school graduate.
In the Philippines?
In the Philippines or anywhere, right? Anywhere high school graduate is sufficient. Yun ang sinasabi natin kanina na ang caregiver does not have to have a degree, for them to be a caregiver. Kasi otherwise, Kuya Johan, yun ang sinasabi natin na you are restricting and limiting, right? Yung qualifications para lang mag-comply, para lang mag-fit in sa kapatid mo, at parang fino-foreclose mo yung yung US workers, di ba? Yeah. So kailangan ko ng registered nurse na hindi naman kailangan. So yeah, it's minimum requirements of high school degree or from 0 to 3 years experience sa caregiving business, right? So pwede yung 0 to 3, but other employers or mga companies or care home owners require specific requirements, kagaya halimbawa ng licenses, yung certified nursing assistant, o yung licensed vocational nurses, right? So pwede rin yun kasi kailangan, di ba? They have to comply with the labor or sa health department na kailangan silang may license. So depende sa need ng employer nyo at depende sa job na ino-offer sa inyo. Usually ang caregiver ranges from 0 experience to with licensure on certified nursing assistant or licensed vocational nurses.
Most likely, attorney, baka i-require by the employer at least yung basic requirements, like for example, undergoing training on basic life support, BLS, CPR.
CPR, yes. Maraming nagre-require din yan, Kuya Yon. That's true. Seminar or training, CPR, mga ganyan. Pwede. That's allowed and acceptable.
Ayun, okay. Para naman talagang makapagserbisyo ng maayos, especially for taking care of somebody who's bedridden, may konting medical requirements. But these caregivers will not be handling anything medical. Most likely, you will be working side by side with another medical provider.
Correct.
Attorney.
More of assistance sila, assisting, di ba? Assisting yung elderly, right? Grooming, bathing, feeding, yung mga yun ang caregiver work.
ADLs, assistance in daily living.
Correct.
Ang tawag nila. Attorney, itong mga kaibigan natin at kababayan natin, meron silang mga care home meron silang mga kumpanya dito sa Amerika, and they probably have caregivers, may mga pasyente na rin sila. Dito sa Las Vegas, ang dami niyan. Is the owner, yung for example, yung Filipino na US citizen na, will they be able to petition their siblings from the Philippines to become their employee?
That's also possible. The same thing holds true sa mga care home owners. Yung pinag-usapan natin kaninang individual, you have to deal with those three issues. Right? Number one would be the ability to pay, which is madali lang yan. Kasi mayroon silang care home. Between
Right.
Care home and individual, mas nire-recommend natin ang may company, may corporation, may company. Kasi nga Kuya Johan, kung mamatay yung specific yung father niyo halimbawa na alagaan o yung anak niyo na may medical condition, kung may mangyari sa kanila, wala na rin yung petition, di ba? Unlike in a care home facility, Kuya Johan, where the business continues, right?
Yeah.
Even if death of one of the patients, right? Kasi may
iba pang patients.
Oo, may darating na patient. So, between an individual and care home, what I do recommend actually is sa care home na lang yung magpa-petition. Right? So, it's really possible, but the most common problem that we encounter dito naman, if you're petitioning your family member, Kuya Johan, would be the audit, right? Did you do a bona fide recruitment? Kasi, doon sa labor certification, doon sa perm, na form, merong question doon, are you related to the beneficiary?
Hindi pwede itago.
Hindi pwedeng itago. At very sila, Kuya Johan, kahit mga siguro second cousin, third cousin mo yan, right? You have to, and even by affinity. So, kung bilas mo lang yan, or ano ba tawag nito, in-laws mo, right, na medyo malayo na, you still have to declare. Kasi otherwise, pag nalaman ng embassy yan, right, they're going to trace the relationship, then they're going to deny your case. So, mas mabuti na lang na you have to, be truthful and tell them about the relationship. As long as you're doing a bona fide and good faith recruitment, you should be fine, right? As long as the lawyers walk with you, the process and proper advertising, proper recruitment, at saka yung mga, how to respond to, the applicant's resume, right? O yung mga candidates na mga nag-a-apply, right? May mga paraan yan to disqualify them, right? Hindi basta-basta mo nang, as we mentioned kanina, na itapon nyo kaagad, right? Because we may never know na yung nagpapadala sila is from Department of Labor.
Speaking of relatives and friends, mga kababayan, baka naman yung third degree relative nyo, tinag nyo sa Facebook, makikita ng immigration.
Yeah. And also, Kuya Johan, I mean, I've been doing this seminar sa mga care home owners sa Reno, Nevada. And if people are listening here and you want me to conduct, lalo na may mga association, right, ng mga care home owners or mga caregivers, etc. I mean, our firm does send lawyers to conduct a seminar or more like personal question and answer and how to process. Aside from pinag-usapan natin ngayon, makinig kayo dito, but if more like specific yung questions nyo, we are able to bring or send lawyers to discuss this process with you. I've done this in Reno, Nevada, Kuya Johan, and some part in California, where there are groups of care home owners who discuss this process, especially nung naging available yung visa. And ang nire-recommend ko, Kuya Johan, just to avoid yung scrutiny, na red flags ng Department of Labor or USCIS, right? May mga kaibigan kayong care home owners and you trust each other, right? Why don't you exchange employee, right? Or yung gusto nyong petitionin. So kung yung kapatid mo para wala ka sa radar ng USCIS or labor or even the embassy, mag-exchange kayo ng petitionin, di ba? So i-petition ko kapatid mo, petition mo kapatid ko, right? Or yung asawa ng ganito, you can, kasi you are related. Kasi otherwise nagtitrigger ng audit, request for evidence, and the embassy might also like delay yung tinatawag nilang, kahit na-approve ka na ng labor, na-approve ka ng USCIS, pagdating niyo po sa embassy, baka magkakaroon tinatawag na administrative delay because of this. So just make sure, just to avoid any of those scrutiny, right? Kung may mga kaibigan kayong care home owners, then exchange po kayo ng beneficiary as long as you trust these people. Kasi kailangan nilang ituloy ang petition, Kuya Johan, kung aabot ng 2 hanggang 3 or probably 5, depende sa visa bulletin, right. They have to stick with their petitioning employees. Hindi tipong, bibitawan kayo in the middle of the process. So, yun ang isa sa mga advice din natin, right? Bringing a caregiver relative in the US, right? Yes, you can petition it yourself if you have the ability to pay. if you have a care home, yes, you can do it also, but it's better kung iba sana ang magpe-petition, di ba? Para lang, mawala tayo sa scrutiny and audit ng Department of Labor and Department of Homeland Security.
All right. Attorney, meron ding mga nagtatanong sa atin. Say for example, itong yung father mo nga, kailangan na ng tulong, and then you start petitioning your siblings or any other person outside of the country. Ano po ba, may requirement po ba na kailangan ipakita sa USCIS saying that, hey, here's a medical certificate saying that my father suffered a stroke? Kailangan po bang i-prove yun na yung taon na nandito who's elderly really needs help?
Yes, Kuya Johan, kailangan ng being lawyer, kaming mga lawyers, we require those proof and evidence, because anytime the Department of Labor or Homeland Security would request those. But it's not one of the evidence that you file now. Of course, isa-certify mo lang kasi na nagkaroon ng medical condition, right? Kailangan ng assistance. So, obviously siguro kung nasa 80 na yung antang nito yung patient, di ba, kailangan ng mayroong presumption na kailangan ng tulong.
Correct.
But those medical requirements might be needed at the time of adjustment of status or immigrant visa interview at the embassy.
At least we already know na talagang legit yung baka naman yung relative na alagaan dito ay malakas pa.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the requirements that we lawyers require before we file. Aside from the consultation with the caregiver, specifically kailangan namin kausapin ang employer din. Aside from that, kasi hindi rin pwede sabihin mo, Kuya Johan, na I'm earning like, $500,000 a year, right? and just rely on that
the word.
Oral statement. Kasi mamaya, final na natin, pagdating na pala sa embassy, nasaan yung tax mo, right? All those, of course, the second step pa lang, kailangan ng proof ng ability to pay. Siyempre, ang labor, as we mentioned, you have to prove the ability to pay from the time you file the labor certification.
Right.
So, siguro nakadalawang taon ka na, nasaan yung tax? But one of the first requirements we ask is to talk to the employer, talk with the employer, and require them to submit to us yung kanilang taxes.
Yun, para sigurado. Attorney, how about if the sibling is here in the United States and on a tourist visa, pumasyal, and all of a sudden, taka muna, baka si ate, isa na lang ang mag-alaga kay tatay, in as much as you're here already, are you able to, is there a way for that tourist visa to be converted into an EB3 for this route?
We also have many questions. We receive many questions and consultations about this process na kararating lang yung pangapag-anak, yung pinsan, yung kapatid, etc. At may kilala silang care home owner, right? Would they be able to file a petition, right, while they're here and probably adjust the status already na hindi na kailang umalis? Unfortunately, mga kababayan, the answer is no, kasi yung process po ng caregiver petition through the EB3, labor certification and I-140, takes more than 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Right? So takes more than even a year probably. So yung ating and of course, you need to be in status. So ang dalawang options na gagawin ninyo, number one would be to either change status, right? Para ma-maintain ang status. Kasi sa employment base, kagaya ng caregiver petition, mga kababayan, kahit mga registered nurses or teachers, if you are on a non-immigrant visa, kagaya ng tourist visa or H1B or anything like that, by the time na nag-green card process po kayo or mag-adjust ng status, you need to be in status. Ibig sabihin ng in status, nasa tourist visa pa ba kayo, nasa student visa kayo, nasa H1B. Kasi otherwise, Kuya Johan, magsasayang tayo ng panahon. Ito na naman yung bumabalik na naman yung discussion natin na meron, halimbawa yung care home owner, meron siyang out of status na worker, di ba? Sabi niya, attorney, 5 taon nang walang status to, nag-decide siyang mag-stay na lang, but he's a good worker, etc. Di ba, nandito sa amin, can I petition him? And the answer is, yes, you can, but you don't want to waste the money and the expenses and, the expectation and the hope na makakuha ng green card. Kasi ano ba ang purpose mo when you petition your employee? Di ba? Hindi lang yung for the heck of having a petition, but also to have a work permit and eventually, adjust the status and to get the green card, right?
Yeah.
Kasi babalik tayo dun sa basic na once you adjust status through an employment, you need to be in status.
Right.
So for people who are out of status, you are out of luck. I mean, the only way you can probably adjust status is number one, if you have a 245I, which we discussed this many times in the past, where you have a petition before 1998 or before 2001, but you have to prove that you were here, right, before the petition was filed before April 30 of 2001, pero nandito ka ng December of 2000. So kung wala po kayo noon, right, na petition, then I don't waste money to file the labor certification process. So what I do recommend in this situation, mga kababayan, kung gusto niyo tulungan ng inyong empleyado na wala ng papel, don't petition them, don't give them that hope na wala naman, right? Kasi the last one is 2002, 2023 na po tayo ngayon, more than 20 years. Wala pang extension ng 245I. So what I do recommend is, since nandito na rin lang sila, is file for the family members, di ba? Yung nasa Pilipinas na walang violation ng immigration, kagaya ng asawa nila, for example, kung sila pa rin, or anak nilang over 21. Kasi by that time na, as we mentioned, Kuya Johan, this is possible at makarating sila dito, they enter the US as a green card holder, right? And in 5 years' time, they become a US citizen, and once they become a US citizen, right, they can petition their parent or their spouse, right? Kasi walang problema ang overstay if your petitioner is a US citizen spouse or a child over 21 who is a US citizen.
Are they able to, attorney, say for example, okay, you come here already as a caregiver, na-approve ka na and everything, are they able to work for another patient, for example? Kasi, for example, si tatay, pwede namang iwanan at this particular day. Hinire siya nung kapitbahay. Pwede ba siyang maging caregiver din dun sa kapitbahay?
Pwede, Kuya Johan. In fact, although ang requirement is full-time, right? Like
full-time.
At least 36 hours a week, I believe. Right? So they can work siguro at night time, or during the break kung gusto nila yung kanilang,
or weekends.
Oo, kasi green card holder nila si Kuya Johan. It's kind of like unrestricted ang kanilang employment.
Wow.
So they can put a business, they can apply for a second job. Gusto nilang mag-dealer sa
casino.
Right? Or part-time Uber or whatever, pwede po yun. O babalik si school, mag-enroll sa UNLV. I mean, that's possible because they are already, once they enter, they are green card holders.
Wow, maganda palang rota ito na, attorney. We used to think always that mahirap ang caregivers because we always think of the nursing route. That the requirement is always a BSN or my nursing and everything. Pwede rin pala ito, mga kababayan, itong pagiging caregiver. Attorney, we'll head over to a break. Mga kaibigan, pinag-uusapan natin ngayon itong petitioning a foreign caregiver papunta dito sa United States. No? Marami na tayong natanong sa mga latecomers, manyari lamang ipapanoorin ulit ang ilang bahagi ng ating pag-uusap ni Attorney Diza regarding this topic, bringing foreign caregivers here in the United States. Sa pagbabalik po natin, hatid po ng Reeves Immigration Law Group, we will walk you through the process naman, what you need to start for your petition, for the petitioner and for the beneficiary. Alamin natin yan sa pagbabalik po ng Immigration Law on Your Side, right here and only here on PHLV Radio. Diyan lamang po kayo. We'll be right back.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees, even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
Alright, nagbabalik po ang Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. We come to you every Wednesday, 7 p.m. dito po sa PHLV Radio on our Facebook, YouTube, and also on Amazon Fire TV. And don't forget our podcast, mga kababayan. We're already on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Nasa Google Podcast na rin kami. And abangan po ang ilang pang mga updates from Attorney Diza's Facebook page. Mamaya babanggitin po ni Attorney Diza ang kanyang Facebook page at ang Facebook page at lahat ng social media channels ng Reeves Immigration Law Group. Attorney, balik tayo dito sa ating pinag-uusapan. Pinag-uusapan po natin, mga kababayan, ngayon ang petitioning a foreign caregiver papunta dito sa United States, kung inyong mga kamag-anak, or if you own a company and you wanna be able to petition a caregiver papunta dito sa United States. Attorney, walk us through the process naman ngayon. What is needed to start a caregiver petition?
Yeah, it's really important, mga kababayan, that you find an employer.
Employer.
A willing employer who would walk through the process, start the process, and finish it, right? That's number one. As we mentioned kanina, could either be an individual, kagaya ng kapatid po ninyo, pinsan na may ability to pay, or kailangan din mga care home or home care or mga agencies who are willing to file a petition for you. Pwede rin corporation, or mga hospitals, pwede rin. So kung kahit registered nurses kayo, or even law graduates, or kung may master's degree kayo, should not be a hindrance for you to apply this job. I mean, ang pinaka-importante kasi hindi naman yung degree mo. I mean, it's really important. Ang degree ko.
Sabi nila overqualified ako.
Yeah, I mean, we also list your educational, and it should not matter, right? Kasi ang kikomplay lang natin is the minimum requirements, which we mentioned kanina, high school graduate or or 0 experience to 3 months experience at the least, at the minimum. So yun yung mga requirements. Kasi maghanap kayo ng employer who's willing to petition for you. And then once that employer files for what we call yung labor certification, ito yung may mga pinakamatagal kasi ngayon, Kuya Johan, once we start the process, ang unang gagawin natin is magkano ba ang prevailing wage. Humingi tayo ng prevailing wage. So for example, in Nevada, right, in Las Vegas, dito sa area natin, we'll key in yung zip code, magkano ang caregiver dito sa area, right? So kahit alam natin, Kuya Johan, or kahit alam na natin kung magkano ang prevailing wage, and even if the employer is willing to pay more than the prevailing wage, we still have to wait for the Department of Labor approval that the caregiver in Las Vegas area, on this area, is $16 an hour, etc. So kailangan natin yon before we can start the recruitment. So medyo matagal, which is kind of like disappointing and frustrating sa ating mga practitioners, sa mga employers, Kuya Johan, dahil ngayon tumabot ng mga 6 months just to request that. In the past, mga 2 weeks lang yan or less than 2 weeks, nag-issue na sila ng prevailing wage. But now, ganun katagal. Kaya tatanungin mo, attorney, kararating lang yung aking pinsan, pwede ko bang i-petition as caregiver? Yung prevailing wage pa lang, nasa first step pa lang tayo. 6 months na. So, no, it's not possible. Right? Unless 245I or unless mag-student visa sila. Now, after the prevailing wage, magkakandak na tayo ng recruitment, Kuya Johan, di ba? So, doon natin ipopost lahat ng mga yung ads natin in a newspaper of general circulation.
Okay.
Hindi pa nagbabago ang Department of Labor with all the social media.
Newspaper pa rin.
Newspaper pa rin, which is very, very expensive, Kuya Johan. Kasi saka hindi lang newspaper, general circulation on 2 consecutive Sundays.
Wow.
Biro mo kung Sunday dyan ang pinakamadaming nag-advertise, kaya mas mahal. Kaya umaabot ng mga 3,000, minsan 4,500, lalo na sa Silicon Valley, ang advertisement na parang ilang lines lang.
Ilang lines lang.
Wanted caregiver, like 3 months experience, etc. Ganun lang kasimple. Send resume to, yung address po ninyo, right? And cost you that much money. So after the ads, then we have to wait a little bit, expect kung sino mag-a-apply, right? Kung may susulat sa inyo, mag-apply online, then do the usual recruitment, your company does, right? Kung individual naman kayo, sundin yung instructions namin sa inyo that you have to either call the applicant, right, or candidate, set them an interview appointment, right? Find out if they're qualified. And then you have to make notes. Kasi kailangan nyo yung yan, Kuya Johan, pag in-audit po kayo, ito yung ginawa ninyo. Ito yung mga pangalan ng aplikante. Ito yung time na pinadala namin yung interview, right? And then this is my notes during the interview. And
or hindi namin makontak.
Oh, yes,
pwede
hindi
yun,
makontak. Or may nag-apply nga naman, walang papel, di ba?
Yun.
Tourist visa lang siya, wala siyang, hindi siya US worker, so we disqualified him. Nag-apply naman siya, kaya ang layo naman ng kanyang tirahan at gusto niya ng live-in, hindi naman namin kailangan ng live-in, etc. So there are many reasons to disqualify, but you have to state that on your notes. So yun yung gagawin po ninyo, no? And then once it's completed, right, aside from of course yung sinasabi natin online newspaper, right, kailangan din po sa work where the work is tawag nito yung work of employment, kailangan mag-post din kayo doon, right, sa inyong bulletin that you are in need of a caregiver. So once that's done, Kuya Johan, then you have to file with Department of Labor, right? and then we wait for the approval. That takes about a year, right, ang processing time. So you can just imagine, mga kababayan, yung prevailing wage is 6 months and another probably 6 months for the recruitment process, and then the labor certification would be about a year. So nakadalawang taon ka na, nasa first step ka pa lang. Kasi 3-step process to eh. Sa labor certification, it's done, right, and approved, right, it's valid for 6 months. So you have to continue, processing it. You have to file the I-140, right? Titingnan mo kung available na yung visa. So kung available yung visa ko yan after a year or 2 years na approve yung labor certification mo, then pwede ka mag-file na ng I-140. Pwede mo ring expedite yan by paying the premium processing fee. Right? 1,400 na yata ngayon. Right, para desisyon na ng immigration within 4 months. So, but don't pay the premium processing kung hindi pa available, kasi there's no need to process the case sa NVC and embassy kung hindi pa available, kasi pag na-approve yan, it's going to sit sa NVC for several years until the priority date becomes available. So it's really important, mga kababayan, for you to discuss with the attorney whether it's really important to pay the premium processing. So itong second step, Kuya Johan, ang employer kailangan i-prove niya yung ability to pay. Sinasabi natin kanina, where they're going to submit na yung kanilang taxes, right, yung kanilang bank accounts, to prove the ability to pay, from the time the labor certification is filed up to the I-140 stage, and also the continuous job offer, right, and of course the need, justify ba't kailangan mo ng employee, caregiver employee. It's really easy to justify, lalong-lalo ang inyong business is care home, or meron kayong sakit na magulang, so it's easy to justify that requirements. So once that's approved and your the visa is available, then it goes to the National Visa Center for processing, right? Dito po kayo mag-upload ng inyong civil documents, right? Kung pwede isama, actually ko yun, kinaganda pa nito is you can bring your legal spouse.
Oh, right? Pati yung mga anak mo.
And children below 21. So pwede silang dalhin, right? And then once that's done sa National Visa Center, then hintayin nyo ang inyong interview sa embassy.
Interview sa embassy sa Philippines.
Sa Philippines na.
Sa Philippines.
Or wherever they're located.
Or
So
wherever
for example, may mga clients kami from the Middle East, they're Filipino citizens, right? But they have a valid work permit sa Dubai, for example, or Singapore, so that then we can, or Hong Kong, then we can send the process to the embassy where they are located.
Ayun.
Or resided.
Wow. Magandang rota pala ito, attorney, Marami sa mga kababayan natin nagtatanong regarding this. And again, mga kababayan, pinag-uusapan po natin is itong bringing a caregiver dito sa United States. Ito pala, attorney, hindi pwedeng como kapatid mo nandito nag-aalaga sa father mo, pwedeng aabutan mo lang ng allowance. Hindi pala pwede 'yon. Dapat pala talaga may sweldo.
May sweldo. That's a prevailing wage tayo, minimum wage, 'di ba? Hindi pwedeng total attorney sa akin naman titira yan.
May libre kain.
Kapatid ko naman yan, you still have to prove the prevailing. I wish that it's that easier, no?
Yeah.
Lalong-lalo the ability to pay, sometimes it's really hard to maintain kasi titignan nila din ang expenses, kuya, yung individual
Yeah.
'Di ba? So let's say kahit registered nurse ka pero 3 bahay mo, right?
Yeah.
Ang mortgage mo is, is eating like 2/3 of your salary. 'Di ba? Paano pa yung grocery mo? Paano pa yung mga bata, etc. Sa mga childcare ng mga bata, paano mo babayaran?
Right.
'Di ba? Ang kapatid mo kung ang net income mo is almost zero or less than the prevailing wage. So that doesn't work. So you have to consider, as we mentioned kanina, sa care home or care home or makaibigan nyo na may-ari ng care home na mayroon silang ability to pay.
Isa lang natanong, attorney, merong mga agency na mga nagre-recruit na mga ganyan, they are not necessarily the care home or the group home or the business, but they are an agency. Ilan sa mga kababayan natin natatakot makipag-deal sa mga agency, especially if it's like the caregiver position, baka ma-exploit sila pagdating nila dito. Is it safe to deal with the employment agencies based in the US or maybe in the Philippines?
Yes, it is safe. Do your own what we call due diligence then on your
mag-research.
Mag-research ka itong company ba, agency na to is legit, 'di ba? O nanloloko lang ng tao, scammer ba to, 'di ba? So meaning, do your own research research if they're legit, kung may mga napadala na sila dati dito, and possible, posible, di ba? And also look at the contracts, the fine print sa mga kontrata ninyo, kasi ang process na ito, mga kababayan, is an employment driven. Lalong na ang perm, yung first step po natin, up to the second step, it's a requirement from Department of Labor that the employer petitioner should pay all the fees. All the fees meaning professional fee, lawyer's fee, yung pagpapa-advertise sa kanila yan. So, bawal na kayo po ang magbabayad, di ba? Kasi, that's the requirement ng Department of Labor. Now, at the third step, Kuya Johan, yun sa immigrant visa process na, di ba? Especially if you're bringing your family, then the employee beneficiary can pay the professional fees and the filing fees or legal fees. So, possibly yan. Just make sure that you also investigate kung sila legit.
Yung plain fare, attorney, kanino yan?
Pwedeng i-handle ng mga employer, but pwede rin sa employee. Walang
requirement.
Walang requirement. Kung kaya po ninyong bayaran yan, that's fine. Kasi malaking tulong na po sa inyo kung employers are willing to do the first 2 step, di ba?
Yeah.
So malaking bagay yan. And of course, meron ding kasi itong process na to, Kuya Johan, at mga kababayan natin, dual representation yan eh. So we are not only representing the employer, but we are also representing the employee. Right? So pareho kayong nire-represent. Dapat hindi tayo bias o may tayong pinapanigan. So ang sinasabi ko rin sa mga employers minsan is like, for example, kasi pagdating dito ng mga caregivers, pinag-usapan natin, green card holder sila kaagad.
Right.
They can work anywhere.
Wow.
Right. But you have to protect your interest din, lalo mga sa employers, to have that agreement. Diba? Like,
yes.
You have to stay with me for whatever years, as long as that's legit at hindi cumbersome, right? That's enforceable. Posible yan. That kung aalis ka sa akin after this number of years, then you need to reimburse the expenses, and that should be valid, a contract between the two of you. So it's really important for the employer to have that contract as well.
Oh, and that's a contract between the employer and the employee. Wala na kinalaman si Uncle Sam doon.
Wala na kinalaman si Uncle Sam doon. That's correct.
All right. Attorney, napakaganda nitong pag-uusapan natin, pero may mga pumapasok pang mga tanong. Ang ano natin, mga kabigan, is i-comment nyo dito sa baba ng ating Facebook page, and we will make sure that Attorney Diza will get those questions, especially regarding itong mga caregiver position. Attorney, as with anything na pinag-uusapan natin dito sa immigration law on your side, there could be a stumbling block dito sa beneficiary. Bigla na lang, okay, na-process na lahat. What could stop this whole process? What will make the beneficiary inadmissible to the United States at the very end? Para naman mabigyan natin ng warning ang ating mga kababayan. Kailangan ba malinis ang record nila? Wala silang past overstays or something?
That's really a big question, Kuya Yon. A great question actually, kasi hindi enough na meron kang beneficiary or gusto mong petitionin yung beneficiary na magaling, masipag, kilala mo na dahil siya ang nanay nung kay bata pa, etc. It's not enough. You have to really look at the history din. Meron bang passport yan, di ba?
Yeah.
Mamaya, baka nasa approve na lahat, wala palang passport or hindi pa lang naka-register sa birth certificate. So, mga employers, you really have to, to vet, and tawag nito, tignan ninyo ng mahiigi ang inyong pinipetition. Pero sa ating mga Pilipino, kasi kilala ko na yan, di ba? Usually ganyan yan. Pero kung hindi nyo gaanong kilala yung pinipetition ninyo, you have to really look at, prior, not only yung having a passport, but also may criminal records ba sila, di ba?
Right.
So, kung may criminal records yan, syempre hindi yan pwede. Lalo na kung grounds of inadmissibility na nabanggit mo kanina. Or had they been in the US before, nag-overstay ba sila ng visa, mayroon ba silang 10-year bar? Di ba? Kauwi lang pala niya, ipipetition mo na, hindi pa na overcome yung 10 years. So, yung mga may misrepresentation ba, nag-tourist visa ba at one time at nag-submit siya ng mga fake documents na mayroon siyang $5 million sa account niya, yung pala wala, etc. So make sure that these people are not inadmissible, as we mentioned. Malinis sila, 'di ba? Or titignan din kung nag-abroad ba sila, nagtrabaho sa abroad, kasi one of the requirements when you go to the embassy or before the interview is to provide a police report anywhere that they have resided since they reached the age of 16. So alamin niyo lahat 'yon, right? And even we as lawyers, we also ask these questions at the beginning ng aming representation, just to make sure na we are not wasting 2 to 3 years of your time and spending all this money na pagdating pala sa ating pinaka primary purpose hindi natin makuha because of this grounds of inadmissibility.
Nako, malaking bagay mga kababayan, and that's why katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, due diligence on both sides, actually on both sides, you being the beneficiary and also yung petitioner. Kahit pa magkapatid kayo siguro, attorney, ano?
Yes.
Alamin mo, ano ba, meron ka bang sabit? Yeah. Well, attorney, maraming salamat. Napakaganda nitong napag-usapan natin. Any other takeaways regarding this topic that you can share with our audience?
Ang petitioning foreign caregivers, mga kababayan, lalo na itong sa ating mga Pilipino, marami sa atin ang may care home business, right? Ang dami nating kakilala dyan sa isang city, sa isang lugar, may mga care homes, right? Either mag-isa lang yung care home mo, whether dalawa hanggang apat lang o maliit lang ang care home po ninyo and have only like a few patients. If your income is okay, right, enough to petition a family member or anyone from the Philippines, do it. Kasi sayang yung opportunity, right? Ano ba yung ability to pay na yan? Ang basic lang dyan, Kuya Johan, is yung prevailing wage should be equal to or greater than the offered wage. I'm sorry, the net income of the company, right, or the individual should be at least equal to or greater than the prevailing wage. So for example, in Nevada, ang minimum halimbawa is 16, so umabot pa nga 28 to 30,000 a year. Ang net income ba ng company may 30,000, di ba? So yun lang ang tanong doon. If you have that, then yes, you can start petitioning a family member or anyone from the Philippines to start the process, because this is one of the easiest way to bring a family member or someone else from the Philippines. And we all know ang sibling petition takes 20 years, right? O kung may magulang kayo dito na magpe-petition sa mga kapatid yung may asawa, takes about 18 years. Now, sa mga unmarried children naman, takes about 10 years. So itong care home or caregiver petitioning to a green card takes about, matagal na yung 5 years, Kuya Johan. And hopefully, yung retrogression ang babalik ulit sa pagiging current. Right? So there's a way for you to bring your family or anyone from the Philippines through the caregiver petition.
Nako, attorney, kung meron sila mga dagdag na katanungan, saan po sila makakapunta at makakatawag o kaya makaka-follow sa inyong mga social media?
Ang aming opisina ay meron po tayo dyan sa San Francisco and Walnut Creek. Meron kami sa Los Angeles and Manila, right? And also one in China. You can see our phone number on the screen. It's 415-568-3777. Or any of U.S. immigration-related topics or updates, follow us on Facebook. Right, it's FJ Diza, U.S. immigration lawyer, and Reeves Immigration Law Group. We also have a website where you can check our success stories, right, and also immigration updates, and you can see our team. Nandun lahat ang aming profile information. We've been doing this business, Kuya Yan, for over 40 years now. Combination of legal experience namin with all the lawyers that we have in the firms. Siguro more than 100 years of combined experience ang aming law firm. All the partners at Reeves Immigration Law Group are certified immigration law specialists, right? So because this is only what we do. Like, we do immigration, and we cater a lot of many immigration Filipino clients, and we alam natin kung ano yung mga major issues ng mga Filipino immigrating in the US.
All right. Attorney, maraming salamat, and again, welcome back dito sa studio ng PHLV Radio. At how I wish that the weather was cooler in Las Vegas, but you were coming in at the time that we've been in triple-digit weather or temperature over the past few weeks, and may excessive heat warning pa ngayon.
Despite the weather, Kuya Johan, it's always like great to be back here sa Las Vegas, especially dito sa studio. Nakakamiss din. We've been doing this for more than 4 years. 4 years na ba? Or more than 4 years, right?
Yeah, more than 4 years, yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, nasa doctorate degree na tayo. Master na tayo, nasa doctorate degree na, right?
Yes, ng pagbibigay serbisyo publiko sa ating mga kababayan. So, attorney, before we go, baka meron kayong other announcements with regards to your civic engagements or sa firm?
Yes, ang law firm namin, as we mentioned, kung may mga gusto kayong i-discuss, we send lawyers to discuss, especially if yung mga organizations of teachers, right, they want to know about J1 visas or how to remove, how to do the waivers.
Nako, dito sa Vegas yan.
Yes, we handle our expenses, right? We are, as long as you provide the audience and of course yung venue, right? We can do that, to do a seminar or presentation. mga care home owners din, mga H1Bs, mga professionals, lahat dyan kinikated ng law firm namin. And if you know someone else, mga group or organizations, we've been doing this in yung mga care home owners actually in Reno, and also in the Bay Area and California. We've been doing presentations. The same thing with other professions, as long as you have an audience and then we're willing to go there and discuss the presentation. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, right? You can see our contact information sa inyong website. And again, maraming salamat mga kababayan sa inyong lahat sa patuloy nating pagtangkilik sa ating programa, Immigration Law on Your Side. Manood at i-share po sa inyong wall para yung mga kababayan natin mas marami pa tayong matutulungan at mabibigyan public service sa ating mga kababayan na mayroong US immigration concern. Again, maraming salamat at maraming mabuhay tayong lahat. Maraming salamat, Kuya Johan.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Diza. Mabuhay po kayo at mabuhay din ang lahat ng ating mga kasama dyan po sa Reeves Immigration Law Group. Again, mga kabigan, from Las Vegas, kaming dalawa ni Attorney Diza. Ito po si Kuya Yo ng PHLV Radio. Maraming salamat po. From Immigration Law on Your Side, we will see you next time.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio.